It is the early morning of the 24th of March, 1184, and the Genji general Yoshitsune stands at the top of a cliff overlooking a ravine. Below him lies the enemy Heike army's central fortress. Yoshitsune raises his arm and signals for his Genji warriors to attack, and 70 mounted samurai urge their horses down the steep ravine. Down Yoshitsune goes, his men pouring after him. The slope is so steep that those behind find the front of their stirrups bumping the helmets of the riders in front. Swiftly, over sandy pebbles, they slide down the slope for some 200 yards until they reach a narrow ledge about halfway down. From there, they look down again at the precipice before them. Huge, mossy boulders lie in their way before they can reach the Heike stronghold. "Well, we're almost there, men," says Yoshitsune, "but the going is not going to be easy." Just then, a young Genji rider comes up and says, "Don't worry, men. Where I come from, in Miura, we gallop over places like this just chasing a bird. This is like our riding ground. Just follow me." And down he goes, and everyone follows. The drop is so steep that most of the Genji shut their eyes and hope their horses can retain their footing. As the first riders approach the foot of the cliff, they release a stifled war cry, their voices echoing from the cliffs behind, so that it seems to the astonished Heike that thousands are now emerging from the mountain to attack their camp. The air now is filled with the whistling of arrows as the defending Heike scramble to face the onslaught. Most terrifying of all among the Genji leading the attack is the giant warrior monk Benkei, who scythes down Heike men with a huge naginata blade like he's cutting down wheat in a field. Amidst the panic, the commander of the Heike forces below the mountains, Lord Michimori, has begun retreating eastward in a desperate attempt to call for reinforcements. But before he can make much progress, he is spotted by the Genji warrior Sasaki Takatsuna, who hunts him down with half a dozen men. Despite Michimori's head start, Takatsuna is quickly able to catch up as his horse, Lord Yoritomo's prize stallion Ikezuka, is the fastest on the battlefield. Michimori turns in fear, but it is too late. Takatsuna slashes his sword and cuts off the Heike commander's head. Raising it aloft, he shouts, "Kagesue, I've won the wager again this time." Meanwhile, Yoshitsune and Benkei are leading the advance guard towards the wooden stockade, and some of the Genji have managed to reach inside the fortress. Some minutes later, the first warriors emerge and report to Yoshitsune that the emperor and the treasures are nowhere to be found. Yoshitsune curses and orders his archers to fire flaming arrows at the stockade, and soon the wooden structure is in flames. As he charges through the battlefield, he sees that many of the Heike have already turned in panic and are retreating towards the sea. Yoshitsune turns to his loyal comrade Benkei. "They must be on one of the boats in the harbour, Benkei," he says, and urges his horse as fast as he can towards the beach. On his command boat offshore, the Heike leader, Munemori, has been watching in horror at the events unfolding at the central fortress. Until now, the battle had been proceeding according to plan, but now his worst nightmare has come true. The central stockade has been breached, and he has been left defenseless while most of his army is engaged in battles going on at the western and eastern gates. Immediately, he orders the imperial barge to evacuate. His general, Noritsune, arrives to report, "Yoshitsune has attacked us from the Hyodori ravine, and the Genji have torched the central fortress," he says. "Yes, I can see that," says Munemori. "We must retreat now." "But, my lord, if we can regather our troops in the center—" "It's too late, you idiot," spits Munemori. "We cannot let the emperor and the treasures fall to the Genji. We must evacuate now." As the order goes out to retreat, there is increased alarm among the Heike men, who are now racing to save themselves by plunging into the sea. Several ships are waiting there, but with hundreds of armed warriors now clamoring all at once to board them, disaster is inevitable. 3 ships sink in full view before they get more than a few hundred yards offshore. To allow the boats a chance to retreat, Munemori now orders that only men of rank should be allowed to board, not the lower orders, who are now being fended off with swords by their own clansmen. Nonetheless, many still hold on for dear life to ships they are forbidden to board. Some of them manage to clamber aboard, others have their arms chopped off, and they float away in waters that by now have turned red with blood. One very large samurai, a warrior by the name of Seimon Kinaga, comes galloping through the waves to a boat stationed at the water's edge. "Let me aboard," he yells. But when he launches himself from his horse into the boat tips over, and all inside are left floundering in the water. Within minutes, they become easy prey for the oncoming Genji, who attack them like a pack of sharks consuming fish. Over at the Eastern Gatehouse, Lord Tomomori, leading the Heike forces in the fierce battle at Ikuta Wood, is still confident of a Heike victory. His defences are standing firm, and the exhausted Genji forces are almost depleted. But now he receives terrible news. The central fortress has fallen, he is told. Look behind you. Tomomori looks back and sees black smoke rising from the central stockade. Realizing he has no choice but to abandon the gatehouse, Tomomori orders his Heike forces to retreat, and there is cheering from the relieved Genji. Tomomori's brother and the deputy commander at Ikuta Wood, Taira no Shigehira, wastes no time in beating his retreat and urges his horse towards the waiting Heike boats offshore. Seeing him flee is Kajiwara Kagesue, a young warrior who has just narrowly escaped his own brush with death at the Eastern Gate after being rescued by his father. As the escaping Shigehira drives his horse across rivers and through icy fields, desperate to reach the waiting ships, all the way he is hotly pursued by Kagesue in search of his Heike prize. Unfortunately for Kagesue, his famed horse Surasumi has been shot with an arrow, and his new horse is not able to keep up with Shigehira's mount. So he takes a chance. He stands tall in his stirrups and carefully takes aim on a very long shot. He releases his arrow. It arches through the air and sinks deep into the rump of Shigehira's horse. The horse rears up and Shigehira falls to the ground. The Heike Lord is now at the waterside, tantalizingly close to the boats that offer salvation. Desperately he crawls into the sea, waving in vain at the Heike ships just 100 yards away. But it is too late. Realizing hope is gone, he plunges underwater and attempts to drown himself, but the waters are too shallow. Now he starts to remove his armor, ready to commit seppuku. But before he can end his life, Kagesue rides up to him. "Not so fast!" cries Kagesue, leaping from his saddle. "You're coming with me, my lord!" Together with a band of Genji who now have caught up, Kagesue wrestles the exhausted Heike lord onto another horse. "Let me kill myself!" pleads Shigehira. "No, I don't think so," says Kagesue. "A prize like you? Not today. Even if the retired emperor or Lord Yoritomo don't want you, maybe we can sell you to the monks of Nara. I expect they'll pay a pretty penny for the man who burned down the Buddha at Todaichi Temple." With that, he leads the captured Shigehira back to the Genji camp. "Ha!" he thinks to himself. "Let's see what Sasaki Takatsura says about this." While Kagesue rides away with the captured Shigehira as his prize, Shigehira's older brother, Tomomori, is also searching desperately now for a way off the beach. He urges his horse into the shallows together with his son Tomoakira, both waving at the waiting Heike boats to come and save them. Just then, 10 Genji riders come down on them. Tomomori turns and releases an arrow straight into the neck of the standard bearer, who immediately topples from his horse. One of the Genji rides up to Tomomori to seize him, but Tomoakira bursts between them and slices his sword through the attacker's chest. But as soon as he does so, another Genji comes and cuts him down from behind. Amidst the confusion, Lord Tomomori has urged his steed out into the sea, heading towards Lord Munemori's command ship, all the time hoping that his son is behind him. But when he turns around, he realizes it is too late. His son has gone. Finally, he reaches Munemori's boat and clambers aboard. Drenched and exhausted, he staggers towards his elder brother and breaks down. I have lost Tomoakira, brother." "For what? For a battle that we should have won." Munemori does not know what to say and holds his brother as he collapses in tears. "We've lost so many." The men on the boat are shocked to see the normally implacable war general break down in tears. Tomomori stares his brother in the eye and says, "We had them, brother. At the Eastern Gate, we had them broken. And if you hadn't let the center fall, we would have crushed the Genji today." Munemori flinches. I am sorry for your loss, brother, but how could I know Yoshitsune was going to launch a suicide attack down that cliffside? You yourself agreed it couldn't happen." "Ha! Well, it doesn't matter now, does it?" says Tomomori. "We were just 1 day's march from the capital. 1 day." Tomomori turns and looks out towards the shore. "Brother, don't give up hope. We're not done yet," says Munemori. "We'll head back to Yashima, pick up the pieces, start again." Tomomori says nothing. Looking out to sea, he notices that his horse is trying to catch up with the boat. He then turns and sees that a warrior on board is aiming an arrow to shoot it. "What are you doing?" he demands. The ship is crowded, my lord. We cannot let it on board, but we cannot let it fall into enemies' hands." Tomomori puts his hand on the archer's arm. "Let anyone claim him who will," says Tomomori. "He saved my life. I've lost my son today. I will not lose my horse." The archer puts down his bow, but the horse, still unwilling to leave its master, remains with the ship, still swimming towards the open sea for some time. But as the boat draws further ahead, the horse at last turns around and starts swimming back to the shore, where Tomomori can now see that a line of Genji are already celebrating their victory. Yoshitsune's victory at the Battle of Ichi-no-Tani is still regarded as one of the greatest feats in battle leadership in the history of Japan. It was a battle that appeared unwinnable, so strong were the Heike defences. Yet Yoshitsune achieved victory because he dared to do something that the enemy, and even most of his own men, thought was impractical. It could have ended in disaster, of course, but it didn't, and the daring cavalry charge down the cliffside completely changed the course of battle. Today, at the site of the battle, you can take a cable car up the slope behind Suma Beach and imagine what it must have been like making that steep descent on horseback. Who knows how many riders must have fallen from their mount during that steep descent, but enough of them made it all the way down, enough to start a panic among the Heike that turned the tide of battle. At the foot of the cable car is a memorial to one of the lost Heike warriors, Taira no Atsumori. There is even a noodle restaurant named after him, Atsumori Soba. Nearby, at a temple named Sumadera, is a statue of Atsumori engaged in a duel on the beach with an older mounted samurai. The tale of the Heike describes many duels and other acts of heroism on that day at Ichi-no-Tani in March 1184, but it is this duel that is most famous. Naozani was the scarred and grizzled veteran samurai that Yoshitsune had assigned to attack the western gatehouse. After leading the charge and being the first person to fire an arrow at Ichi-no-Tani, the veteran Naozani had gone in search of a worthy Heike to take as a prize. Eventually Naozani spotted a young warrior striding through the shallows trying to reach a Heike ship. The young warrior wore an embroidered silk robe under a crafted suit of green armour, a helmet with spreading horns and a sword with gold fittings. Carrying a lacquered bow, he rode a dappled grey horse with a gold-trimmed saddle. This is no ordinary man, thought Naozani. He watched as the young warrior leapt from his horse into the water and began swimming towards a Heike boat about 50 yards from the shore. Naozani shouted a challenge. "My eyes tell me that you're a man of high rank. To avoid shame, turn your face to your enemy." The young man hesitated, then turned and strode back through the crashing waves towards Naozani. The two men charged at each other and grappled, falling onto the sand. Naozani pinned the man's head to the ground and tore off his helmet. Then he stared in surprise as he saw that the man was just a youth of 16 or 17 years old, his face slightly powdered, his teeth blackened in the style of the court nobles in the capital. Naozani realized he was about the same age as his own son. "Who are you?" Naozani asked. "Tell me your name and I may spare you." "Well, and who are you?" the youth countered. "Well, perhaps nobody you have heard of. Kamagai Naozani of Musashi Province. I have a son of your age." As he kept the youth pinned to the ground, Naozani glanced behind and saw a group of 50 Genji racing up, led by Kajiwara Kagetoki. He turned back to the captured youth. "I want to spare you, I really do, but the men on my side will never allow you to get away." "Fine," said the youth. "Just take my head then, but be quick." Naozani's fabled courage was now faltering, as all he could see before him was his own son, but he knew what he had to do. In tears he cut off the young man's head. It was then that he noticed the man held a small brocade bag. He opened it and found a beautifully crafted flute. "Ah," Naozani said, and looked up as the group of Genji horsemen arrived. "You know, at dawn today, before the battle, we could hear men making music within the fortress. Clearly he was one of them. You know, we boast in our army from the east warriors by the tens of thousands, but I am sure not one of us brought a flute into battle. These Heike are more refined than we are." Naozani sadly took the young man's head down to the beach to place among the hundreds of other trophies that the Genji had gathered at the waterside. Only later did he learn that the young man was Lord Taira no Atsumori, nephew of the great Heike warlord Kiyomori. As Naozani glanced up the beach, he saw that apart from those still lying in heaps at Ikuta Wood, below the mountains and around the gate towers, the Genji had taken and put on public display the heads of over 2,000 men. From that moment on, Naozani vowed never to fight in a battle again, and after Ichi-no-Tani, he is said to have become a Buddhist priest and teacher, living his life taking care of his aging mother and spreading a doctrine of peace. At the water's edge, General Yoshitsune stands looking out to sea as he watches the imperial barge fleeing south, heading back to the Heike base at Yashima. His lieutenant Kajiwara comes up to him and says, "Congratulations, my lord. Your gamble paid off, it seems. The Heike have lost thousands of warriors, and no fewer than 10 leading clansmen are dead, including most of their youngsters. A whole generation wiped out in one day." Says Yoshitsune. "We may have won the battle, Kajiwara, but I did not secure a victory." Kajiwara can't resist a wry smile. "Well, yeah, the retired emperor is not going to be too happy when he hears that we've lost the imperial treasures. Rather you than me that delivers him that news, my lord. On the plus side, we do at least have Lord Shigehira. My son took him alive, as captive." Yoshitsune turns to Kajiwara in surprise, then nods. "That's good. We'll send him to my brother." At that point, Benkei strides up to them, holding the reins of a horse. "Not only that, my lord," the giant says, "we also have Lord Tomomori's war horse. It's a shame Tomomori escaped, but at least we have his mount. It's a fine stallion, my lord. Perhaps we can hand it to the retired emperor." "Well, I suppose that will be some consolation for him," says Yoshitsune. The three men pause as they look out as the last Heike boats approach the horizon. "This is just the beginning, gentlemen," says Yoshitsune. "I'll pursue the Heike to the ends of the earth if I have to, on land as fast as a horse can travel, on water as far as our oars can carry us, and I will not return until we have retrieved the boy emperor and the 3 treasures." Lord Tomomori's horse starts to neigh as it sees the Heike ships disappear over the horizon. "It's time we take the battle to the Heike. We have them on the run now, and next time we'll go straight into the lion's den, a place where they think they'll be safe." Benkei nods. "Just give the order, my lord." "Yes, we're going to attack Yashima." In the next episode, Yoshitsune launches his next daring attack. But will the Heike be caught by surprise a second time?